Good morning, you guys, and welcome back to my channel for another video. If you're new and just stopping by, welcome. My name is Ashley and I'm a homeschooling mom of almost an entire decade of time to 4 kids. And today I am giving you guys basically an update on screen time rules in our family. I did a video on this topic quite a few years ago, and recently I have received some comments on that video asking for an update in 2022, and so I figured now that we were into 2023, it might be a good time to give you guys an update on the screen time rules that we have in our family that my husband and I have decided are best for our kids and what we value and what we want to accomplish in our home. I am in no way shaming any of you if you operate your homes differently. I'm just speaking for myself and why we do the things that we do. I know that screen time can be a place of almost shame if you're a mom that knows that perhaps you need to tighten up the belt in this area, so to speak. And that is not my intent to create this idealistic situation for you that you feel like you're just not measuring up. I would encourage you though that if you're feeling the nudge to take control over the screen usage in your home, that there's endless supplies of scientific, even secular scientific information on the damaging effects of too much screen time. So if you're feeling convicted, follow it, but it's not a place of shame and guilt. It's more of an acknowledgement of, yes, I want to do better in this area. So now that that disclaimer is out of the way, let's jump in and talk about screen time and what's changed. So in order for you guys, if you're new to my channel and you never watched that original video, to understand basically what this video is, because it's an update on that, I would encourage you to go and watch the previous video. It's older and I did things differently back then. So it'll feel like you're watching an older YouTube video. However, what I was talking about in that video, a lot of it still stands true. So let's start with what is the same as far as screen time rules in our house. First, let's define screen time. So screen time is anything with a screen other than basically a computer for schoolwork. Even though that is obviously using a screen, it's for a very different purpose, and that is what I think is more of the more of the issue when it comes to screen time than necessarily the actual use of a computer. So screen time is television, video games, iPads, Kindles, iPhones, anything other than a computer being used for schoolwork. So that is what I'm talking about when I talk about screen time. So what is the same from that original video? Well, the first thing that is the same is that during the school week, meaning Monday through Thursday, because obviously Friday afternoon we are done with school for the week. Let me set that coffee down. We are a pretty much no screen family. Now with that, there's always an exception for, if something comes up, it's all practices are canceled and we want to watch one of our favorite shows together, like All Creatures Great and Small or something like that, then we will do that. But as a 95% rule, we do not have the kids watching TV, playing video games, playing on iPads, doing any of that during the school week. So that's Monday through Thursday, because Friday, which we'll get into, we have a little bit of a different policy now. So basically, just no TV during the school week. I've had that rule in my household basically since I started homeschooling almost 10 years ago, and there is such value in not starting the day in front of a screen, watching TV before school. It would just never set the right tone. And then also, After school, jumping right onto a screen really limits, creativity, outdoor play. There's so many other things. So we just choose to continue to have that rule in our home, and it's been in place for so long that the kids don't even miss it or want it. They're doing things that are far more fun and beneficial than just plopping down in front of a screen, which there is a time and a place for enjoyment of that type, but it's just not every day after school, in my opinion. Another thing that is the same in our screen time rule book basically is no social media. I've received that question a lot more recently now that my oldest daughter is approaching 16. Am I going to reconsider and allow her to have social media? The answer is no, I'm not. So no social media of any type, any usage. My children have never, ever even seen a TikTok unless a neighborhood kid showed them a video of like a dance or something. But they've never logged into that app. They've never logged into Instagram. My kids do watch some YouTube when they're allowed to be utilizing YouTube, and they have to ask for permission, but it's all done through my account so that I, have full access and can see everything, and it's just simpler that way rather than needing to monitor, every kid's different profile and all that. So no social media is something that is still the same, and my teenagers are not missing out. And I know that sounds funny coming from someone whose job is essentially on social media, but what you have to understand is that the teenage brain and the teenage mind is still forming, and they lack the ability to make good decisions, not just out of a parenting lack, but truly out of a developmental lack. If you look into the human brain and the maturation of the lobe, the frontal cortex, where you make your decisions from, and the damage that can happen through bullying, or just feeling left out, or just all the emotions that teenagers work through without social media. If you let them get on there, chances are almost a 10 out of 10, it's going to do nothing but add some type of insecurity or some type of a negative emotion to your child. Not to mention the access to basically, pornography that is on all of those sites, which my kids are well aware of. They know, and it's not that I wouldn't trust them. It's just I don't see the benefit in it, and so it's something that my husband and I hold fast to. The way that I use social media as a grown, almost 40-year-old is going to be very different than my impressionable young teenagers who are still determining, what they want to do in their lives, what is important to them, what they really value and what they don't. And so social media is just not anything that is needed, in my opinion, for teenagers. And I think our world would be in a much better state if more parents took that stance. Not to mention safety, there's just so many things to it. And even if you are a parent that puts everything on private and only friends that you actually know follow your children, and you heavily regulate it, which I know some parents choose to go that route, there's still so much that goes on social media, even in that scenario, that I just cannot, in good conscience, allow my kids. So we have a no social media rule for this area. Another thing that has stayed the same with our screen time policies in our family since that original video is that my kids do not have free access to anything electronic. anything they want to do, they need to ask for permission, even if the device is theirs. I do this because if I paid for it, it's actually mine. But you know, if they have something that we've given them as a gift, or we've given them something for a purpose, you know, they don't just get to go and grab it and get onto it whenever they want to. They all still have to ask for permission, and that rule is the same as it was back then. Another thing regarding screen time that is the same as that original video is that all of our electronics are kept in the main areas of our home. No one is allowed to have a computer in their bedroom. None of my children have TVs in their room. No one is allowed to charge their electronic in their room. Again, not because I don't trust my kids, especially my older kids, but just because it's a form of temptation, not even to do anything bad, but to just, you know, you get an idea, oh, I wanted to look up that store, or, oh, I wonder what that song was, and then you're getting on your, you know, your playlist to kind of see. So we just feel that having all of the electronics in the main areas of our home is what is best for our family, and that is something that is still the same as that original video. So those are some of the things that I talked about in my very first video on this. And now I want to give you guys the update on what's changed. My kids are older, my kids are growing, my kids are driving cars, and so naturally there has to be an element of evolution as, you know, things in life changes. So I figured that I would share what has kind of changed since that original video. So the first thing that's changed is that we own a lot more electronic and screen time devices than we did before. You know, when they were little, we just didn't have a need for those things. And now that they are older, you know, there is a fine balance between rejecting all technology and living in what seems to be the Stone Age, and then expecting your kids in like 2 years, from 16 to 18, if they decide to go out on their own, to navigate all of that, having never learned how to navigate that under your supervision. So we are not a family that is like, no iPhones, you know, completely shut down. We actually have had a very different experience with getting our kids iPhones. I know a lot of parents prefer the flip phones, or, you know, the prepaid phones with no internet access whatsoever. And I can see the benefit of that. We did do a little bit of a trial with that when my oldest daughter was about 12, which I'm going to get into, but we just own more devices. All of my high schoolers do some of their high school homeschooling work on laptop computers, so we have a lot more computers. My older two kids got iPad minis for Christmas for using for their art and creation, so we have those. So we've just accumulated a lot more screens than we had previously. So that's one thing that has changed. Another thing that's changed, which I touched on, I think in that video, I really should have gone back and watched my own video, but I did not, is that in homeschooling, as your kids get older, there is the likelihood that your high school age children will be taking some form of an online course. And so that is true for us. When my kids were younger, I very, very much was against using any computer-based program or any online program really for their homeschooling, because I just didn't want that to be the homeschooling experience, and I still hold on to that. There's a reason why it's a very select few classes, because I do think that there's such value in a pen and a paper and physical materials. Not everything needs to be learned through a screen, but there are things like math or foreign language, things like that, that I have had my children do in an online format in our homeschooling, and it's been nothing but a blessing. So something else that's changed is that my kids do utilize a computer every single day in our homeschool, my older kids. My younger two kids, my son who is in the 7th grade, he uses a computer for his math program, that's it. And then my youngest daughter only watches about a 10-minute like introductory video with her math program. So you can see that like the younger they are, the less they're using a computer for school. But as they get older and they near college aged and, you know, moving on with whatever they choose to do next, I want them to be able to know how to navigate an online course, know how to work in that type of outline and class structure. And so I see a lot of value in this, again, transitional time. So that is something that is different. Another thing that's different is we actually have a designated day for playing their games, as they like to say. Now that can be anything from playing their Nintendo Switch games that they have to my daughter watching some YouTube videos that she's wanted to watch, to, you know, playing just beach buggy racers or whatever my daughter plays on her iPad. So that day for us is Friday after school is complete. I'll give them about an hour to an hour and a half of time, and they look forward to that. And actually the reason why I brought that into effect was because I needed, and if you're a parent, you're gonna understand this, I needed a privilege that was something that they looked forward to be able to remove in the event that there was a need for a consequence. So sometimes in parenting, you actually have to give your kids freedom, privileges, you know, things to to take things away. So I have found that that is a very effective method to disciplining my older kids especially. So that is something that has changed, as we actually have like a designated day for that. Another thing that's changed is that all of my children now have an iPhone that they are permitted to use when they are dropped off somewhere. So there's a reason why we got them iPhones, amongst the technical issues and you know, the cost and those things, which, you know, is neither here nor there. I believe, and as a mom of an almost 16-year-old, I've seen this to be true, that trust is sown in relationships. And I was really having a hard time reconciling the thought of allowing my 16-year-old to trust her enough to get behind the wheel of a car and drive that car that can kill herself physically or someone else in an instant if I didn't even trust her to have the self-control when it comes to having an iPhone in her hand. Now, there's a lot of tools that you can use with the iPhone with driving, and maybe I'll make a whole nother video on that topic, but there's alerts, there's locks that I can put on it, there's being able to track her location for safety. So there's a lot of benefits to it, in my opinion. And so we have an iPhone for all of our children who get dropped off somewhere. So my youngest two kind of have one that they share when the need arises, and then my older two kids each have their own that they use when they babysit, when they, you know, get dropped off places, because as your kids get older, that is something that happens, and I want to be able to contact them in a simple way, and it just made sense for us. And I know you guys will hear a ton of negative stories about iPhones with teenagers and why they're so bad, but you heard before, right? My kids don't have social media. So it's not the iPhone 9 times out of 10 that's the issue. It's the lack of parental authority over the iPhone and the lack of control on what they're using the iPhone for. So we have iPhones, but they don't have the ability to download new apps. They don't have, you know, they have to ask for my password for me to sign in. They don't have their own Apple IDs for that reason. And so it's been actually a very good tool to build trust. And, you know, there's a lot of benefits to having it. So that is something that has changed. And they also use their iPhones for texting their friends and their family members on their own free accord, of course, with permission to use the phone. And, you know, as your kids get older, that is important, especially when you are homeschooled, is being able to connect with those friends. So being able to talk with whoever they want, you know, like in their friend circles, or my brother, or, you know, different people. It's been good for us. So those are some of what has changed and what has remained the same, and kind of an update on the screen time rules in our family at this stage of parenting with 2 teenagers and 2 preteens. So let me know if you guys have any questions, leave them down below. I'll be happy to get back to you. And again, remember that all the tools that God has given us can be used for good or bad. And so I don't think that an item holds weight in being a good item or a bad item. It's the use of the item, and we've seen that to be true. So I hope you guys enjoyed hearing from me on this topic. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoy these sit-down parenting type videos. It's been a while since I shared one. I've been putting a lot of this formatted content in my membership, which is always linked down below. So if this is your kind of thing, you will love the membership. So if you want to check it out, that link is down below. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys again really soon. Bye, friends.